The police officer wouldn't let me see the body. Ma'am, I need you to stay seated. But I already knew whose shoes those were. White sneakers. Sand still clinging to the soles. They told the crowd it was a tragic accident, a fall from the balcony, too much wine, slippery railing. My mother was screaming into a resort towel like she'd just lost everything. My brother kept saying she must have leaned too far, except I was standing right there, alive, breathing, holding the folder that proved they meant for it to be me. The body on the sand wasn't a random tourist. It was the man my brother hired when I wouldn't sign the inheritance papers, and when the police pulled his phone from his pocket, there were 3 messages that changed everything. Room 408, she's alone. If she doesn't sign by Friday, do it. Make it clean. But to understand why my own mother stood on a beach, pretending to mourn a man who was supposed to kill her daughter. We have to go back to the night she invited me to Hilton Bay Island. My name is Ilara Vance. I'm 31 years old. And the last time I saw my mother before Hilton Bay Island, I was 13. The night she told me to pack a bag. No screaming, no dramatic fight, just quiet dismissal. Your aunt will take you for a while, she said. A while turned into forever. My older brother Connor stayed. He got the house, the car, the family business. I got a duffel bag and a bus ticket. My grandfather, Arthur Vance, was the only reason I didn't disappear entirely. He found me 6 months later living with a distant relative who resented the electricity I used. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Come home." For 8 years, his small coastal house in Maine was my refuge. Weather-beaten shingles, salt in the air, coffee at 5 a.m. sharp. He built fishing docks for a living and fixed radios for fun. He never spoke badly about my mother, but he documented everything. I didn't know that yet. When he died, I was 21. At the funeral, my mother cried louder than anyone. Connor stood beside her in a tailored navy suit. After the service, Connor leaned close enough that only I could hear him. Don't expect anything. Grandpa left it all to Mom. Then he smiled. Same smile from childhood, the one that meant I'd already lost. I left without arguing, because I'd learned something early. If someone wants you erased, they'll rewrite the story. I built my life from scratch. Scholarships, night shifts, coding contracts. By 30, I'd launched a logistics software startup that tracked supply chain fraud for mid-sized companies. It grew faster than I expected. Investors noticed. By 31, my company was valued at $38 million. Not billion. Rich, but stable. Independent, untouchable, and that's when my mother called. Sweetheart. I almost hung up at that word. She said she was sick. Early-stage diagnosis. She wanted one last family trip. Hilton Bay Island. South Carolina coast. Just 3 days. Connor wanted to apologize. I said no. Then she started crying. Real tears? Maybe. Or muscle memory. You're all I have, she whispered. That's when she made the mistake. Because if I was all she had, why did Connor text me 5 minutes later? Let's put the past behind us. It's time. Time for what? Grace, my best friend and attorney, told me not to go. They don't miss you. They need you, but there's something about abandonment that never fully heals. Some part of you wants proof you weren't disposable, so I booked my own flight, my own hotel room, different wing of the resort. Control is survival. Hilton Bay Island looked like forgiveness. White sand, palm trees, balconies facing endless blue water. Connor hugged me stiffly. Mom clung too long. Dinner felt rehearsed. Connor asked what my company was worth twice. Mom asked if I had a will. Who asks that on a reunion trip? The next morning, Connor brought out paperwork. Grandpa's estate wasn't fully settled, he said casually. A family consolidation trust. He slid the papers across the table. I didn't sign. Not because I suspected murder, because I recognize control language when I see it. Clause 4.2, power of asset oversight. Clause 7, irrevocable transfer authority. They weren't consolidating anything. They were transferring everything. That night, I heard them arguing outside my hotel room. She's stalling, Connor hissed. She'll sign, Mom said. She wants us back. She's not stupid. Pause. If she doesn't, we used the other option. My blood went cold. At 5:52 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Leave. First flight. Don't tell them. I stared at the message for 10 full seconds. Then another one came. Room 408 isn't empty. That was Connor's room. I didn't confront them. I didn't pack dramatically. I slipped out the service elevator. Uber to Savannah. 6 a.m. flight home. Phone off. When we landed, I turned it back on. 8 missed calls. 3 voicemails. Connor. Where are you? Mom. Don't do this again. Connor. You're making a mistake. That last one sounded less emotional, more urgent. At 11:43 a.m., my phone rang again. This time from a Maine number I recognized. Thomas Mercer, my grandfather's old attorney. I believe you're in danger, he said calmly. We met at the airport conference room. 2 state troopers stood nearby. He laid out 3 things: my grandfather's updated will, financial records, Screenshots. Connor had discovered the will draft months earlier by breaking into Grandpa's coastal house. The real will named me sole beneficiary, the house, the land, the investment accounts. Estimated total, $3.4 million. Connor was drowning in gambling debt, $410,000. To people who don't send reminders, they send consequences. Then Thomas showed me the messages recovered from a burner phone already under investigation. Connor to a contact saved as V. If she signs, we're good. If she doesn't, Plan B, balcony. After drinks, I stopped breathing. Then the message that shattered everything. Connor, she's not signing. V, then we go clean. Connor, do it Friday. Mom, just make sure it doesn't trace. Back, my mother, 14 words. No hesitation. I didn't collapse. Not yet, because something clicked. Room 408. The unknown text. Someone had tipped me off, Thomas explained. My grandfather had hired a private investigator 6 months earlier. When Connor accessed the house illegally, they'd been monitoring him ever since. The unknown number? The investigator. They'd intercepted enough chatter to suspect escalation. They just didn't know when. Until Hilton Bay, Friday night, balcony level, the resort bar was loud. Music. Tourists. Vacation oblivion. Connor thought I was in my room. Instead, law enforcement was waiting. Victor, the man Connor hired, was intercepted near the stairwell outside room 408. He resisted, ran, slipped on the rain-slicked boardwalk, hit the railing, fell 2 stories onto the sand, dead on impact. The crowd screamed. Mom rushed outside crying hysterically. Connor kept repeating, "Who is that? What happened?" Until police pulled Victor's phone from his pocket, unlocked. Recent messages open. Connor's name at the top, my mother's number directly below. They didn't arrest them that night, but they separated them, questioned them, and when Connor's phone was seized, the burner app logs were still there. Deleted doesn't mean erased, it just means lazy. Connor was arrested 3 days later in Connecticut. Criminal solicitation, conspiracy, intent. My mother wasn't charged. The language was vague enough for her lawyer to argue misinterpretation, but public opinion doesn't require legal precision. It requires truth, and the truth was ugly, and that's how the beach trip ended. Not with reconciliation, not with forgiveness, but with flashing lights reflecting off ocean water, and my brother in handcuffs. Connor thought debt was pressure. He had no idea what consequences felt like. The arrest footage leaked within 48 hours. Not nationally, but locally. Connecticut man charged in coastal conspiracy. They didn't name me at first, but they didn't have to. Small towns connect dots fast. When the affidavit became public record, the messages were included, every single one. If she doesn't sign, we go clean. Balcony, after drinks. Just make sure it doesn't trace back. Connor's bail was denied. Flight risk. Financial motive, clear premeditation. His defense tried to frame it as venting, as financial desperation, as he never intended to follow through, except he paid a deposit, and he booked the trip, and he selected the room with the unguarded balcony railing. Intent isn't measured by poetry, it's measured by preparation. He pleaded guilty 6 months later. 8 years. Eligible for parole after 5. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he turned toward me, not remorseful, just frustrated. "You could have helped me," he said. That was his apology. Not for trying to kill me, for failing to secure funding. I didn't respond. I didn't look away either, because silence can be a verdict. She wasn't charged. The text message was ambiguous enough to avoid conspiracy charges. Her attorney argued she believed it referred to financial pressure tactics, not violence. Maybe, but courts deal in technicality. Life deals in pattern. Church friends stopped calling her. Neighbors stopped waving. The narrative she'd curated for 20 years, the difficult daughter, the family misunderstanding, the reconciliation attempt, collapsed under documentation. She sold the house. Within 3 months, moved to Clearwater, Florida. Alone. She called me once after the sentencing. No crying, no performance, just flat. "You destroyed your own brother." "No," I said calmly. "He destroyed himself. I just didn't cover it up." Silence. Then quietly, "I did what I thought was necessary." There it was. Control disguised as necessity. Love disguised as leverage. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. "I'm not your necessity anymore." Then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. The probate hearing took 4 weeks. Thomas Mercer presented everything. Grandfather's will, psychiatric competency evaluation, property documentation, financial records, and the diaries. 7 leather-bound journals documenting every custody attempt he made for me after I was sent away. 17 petitions. 17 denials, because my mother contested. Everyone. I learned in a courtroom that my grandfather had fought for me every year of my childhood. He just never told me. "Let her believe she's free," he wrote once. "She'll build stronger." The will was upheld. I inherited the coastal Maine house, $2.9 million in accounts and investments, 40 acres of shoreline land my grandfather never developed. But that wasn't the real inheritance. The real inheritance was proof. Proof I wasn't disposable. Proof someone had chosen me daily. I didn't move into the Maine house. I renovated it, then I converted it. 3 bedrooms became transitional housing for young women aging out of foster care. I named it Harbor Nest, because my grandmother used to say, birds don't ask permission to build. The first resident was 19, second was 21. Both had nowhere safe to land. We didn't offer luxury, we offered stability. A key, a door that locked, a rule. No one here gets pushed out without a plan. Hearthline expanded. The publicity wasn't something I chased, but it found me. Tech founder survives family conspiracy. Investors reached out, not because of drama, because resilience reads like leadership. We crossed $60 million valuation within the year. I hired more staff, expanded our mentorship platform, 3,000 mentor matches last quarter, and every time someone asks me where I found the strength, I tell them I didn't. I found documentation. There's a difference. I don't hate my brother. Hate requires emotional investment. He saw me as a financial solution, not a person. That's smaller than hatred. That's emptier. I don't hate my mother either. She chose control over love, and control always feels powerful until it collapses. Here's what I learned. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who protects your life when you aren't in the room. My grandfather protected me from beyond the grave. The investigator sent the warning text. Thomas honored his promise. Grace showed up without asking. That's family, not genetics. Choice. If you're watching this and you're still hoping someone who hurt you will finally change, listen carefully. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to refuse the papers. You are allowed to get on the early flight. And you are absolutely allowed to survive something they planned. Being targeted didn't make me a victim. Staying silent would have, so I didn't, and I won't. If this story hit you somewhere real, subscribe to her revenge stories. Drop a comment. Would you have taken the flight, or would you have confronted them? I read every response, and if you want another story about someone who refused to stay small when the trap was already set, check the next one. I'll see you there.